Guys, hold on. Let me switch you over to Steph. There she is. Hold on. Get you in the mount. Can everybody hear us okay?
Well, they can hear us probably, but you can't hear them because they're only going to be able to type.
Five people on. You want to try to turn your TV on so you can see too or not? Or is that not possible?
You can grab my laptop if you want to.
Okay.
Okay, hi everybody. I hope you've all had a good summer so far.
We've been busy in our Tomcat and Sandbox.
Yep, that's true. It's all true. I'm going to try to read any of your questions or comments while I'm on here so that I can answer any questions you may have while we're live. And of course, you can always send questions and whatnot after the fact if I don't get them
Good
answered.
morning from Alaska.
Well, hello.
Robin Dillard.
I love Alaska.
Apparently I got chat up on my phone, so hopefully I can help out too.
I have to try to find myself.
Montana, Bernice.
Hi, Bernice.
So I'm going to bounce back and forth between the camera and the long arm.
Oh, I hear you.
Hey, you found me.
I found me.
Colorado. Montrose.
Okay, great.
Connie's on.
Oh, hi, Connie. All right.
We've missed the girls.
Wonderful. We have. We're home.
At least for a minute.
Yeah, yep. So anyway, so I miss you all, and I'm doing this basically because we were out on the road for 6 months, which was a really, really long time. And we sold a lot of kits, so I'm doing this because I want to make sure that everybody that we saw and who got kits and stuff while we're out has an opportunity to be sitting at their machine and pull these things out while and do this along with us, because it's not very good to have tools that you can't use or are afraid to use, or so on and so forth. So, first thing is car wax. Is my car wax sitting there behind you somewhere? Dusty? I had it sitting on that chair. In my state of organization.
Yeah, you're super organized.
Well, anyways, I can tell you about it. It's
No,
just
I'll go out and look. I'll look in your Tudo.
okay. It might be in my Tudo. Anyways, I always start with car wax, and it's nothing special. It's just turtle car wax. Any flavor you want. It doesn't matter which. But I always wax the table, so any extension table you may have, and the throat area of your sewing machine. Not the metal plate, but, the plasticky parts. Wax that all down real good.
When you're done, the Jeep needs done.
I don't wax Jeeps, sorry. But you want to put this on there and wait for it to dry. Mine has been around a while. And sometimes they're a little liquidy. If they're a little liquidy kind of, if they seem a little liquidy, leave the lid off for a few hours, because you really want this pretty pasty. And you're just going to spread that out. I don't even have a rag or anything.
You don't need to do yours.
I do.
You do?
I do. Here, I'll just use this.
You want a piece of batting?
I'll put it on with this, though.
I'll get you a piece of batting, take it off.
Perfect. So, but you want a nice paste anyway. And you're just going to rub it on, good old Karate Kid. He taught us something. But you're going to wax it on, and you don't need tons of it. But what it does is it takes out the little scratches and whatnot that are in your bed. And
Makes it super slippery.
makes it super slippery, which is awesome. And you're just gonna put it on and wait for it to dry. So if you've got a fan or whatever, you can fan it, leave it sit. Sometimes I just put it on and leave it overnight. I've had the boys working hard today. Dusty and I got rained on over the weekend, so everything we owned.
It really wasn't a chainsaw carving event. It was more like a hippie convention.
It really was.
And it was freaking great.
It was really.
We had the best time with the hippies all weekend.
Yeah, so it really was like a hippie convention. There was even a bus, a school bus. It was crazy. But that's where we were for the weekend. But the last night, it poured. But our tent doesn't leak. So that's good. Hi. I love seeing all of you. So glad you got to join us. So now I'm just taking this off. Now mine wasn't quite dry, so, but you do want to wait for it to dry. But I want to get moved on to the next step here. So it's harder to get off if it's not quite dry. But if it's dry, see how this kind of balls up? And I don't know if you can see it real well, but it kind of balls up and it almost becomes like dust if it's clear dry.
Okay, you're sitting at 19.
Okay. And we've got some new tools that are going to be coming out, which I'm real excited about, and some new metal work coming, which we're tickled about. All right. There we go. Ah, perfect. All right. So, now, when I first start, and I'm getting ready because, you know, when you're practicing, and this does take practice, I don't want anybody to think that the very first time you're going to do it, that you're going to sit down and you're going to make perfect designs, because that's just not going to happen, okay? It takes some getting used to, it takes some practice, and you're going to have to put in a little bit of time. Now, it's certainly way faster than trying to do it just freehand, because I've been trying to learn how to do that for 17 years and I still can't do it. So it's certainly way faster than that. But it does take some practice and some, you know, getting in the groove of doing it. But all that being said, I start with something no bigger than a fat quarter, because a fat quarter is plenty to get started. Okay, so a fat quarter of fabric, and I take my batting, and I don't even put a piece on the back. I don't even put a piece of fabric on the back initially, because I'm cheap like that. So I've got my batting and my fabric, and once I fill up this front piece of fabric, I'm going to flip this baby over, and I'm going to put another fat quarter on this side, and I'm going to fill that up, because I don't want to waste batting. And I'm actually going to probably end up with another piece of fabric on this side and then another one on this side. So probably 4 pieces of fabric total before I ditch this, or, you know, put it in a dog bed or whatever I decide to do. But I just don't want to waste. Fabric's expensive enough, even if it's not the greatest fabric in the world. You know, I don't want to waste it. I don't want to waste the batting, you know, all of those things. So, I hope you all can hear me okay. Anyways, I got a new phone, so hopefully you can. Anyways. Oh, nice to meet you, Susan, Bernice's friend in Montana.
Up to 21 on here.
Right. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put the foot on. All right. Everybody's foot is gonna be a little different depending on shank height. So you may have a high shank foot or a low shank foot. But you're gonna take your other foot completely off your machine. Okay? So other foot's gonna come clear off. Your new foot's gonna go on in its place. Now, depending on what kind of machine you have, if you have a regular sewing machine, and what I mean by regular is it's whatever brand it is, but it's not a Bernina or it's not a straight stitch only machine. Okay? If you have a regular sewing machine, you're going to take your foot off, the whole foot assembly, which means you're going to remove the screw and you're going to take your foot completely off.
The space looks different. No, G and Dave's junk is out of the way.
Anyways, but they're coming back, hopefully for a short stay. Anyways, we're going to remove this. And I set my screw
Oh no.
somewhere.
It's immediately missing.
Oh, gracious.
How can you lose it already?
I'm good like that.
That's not possible.
Yes, it is. Oh, man. Ah, there it is. It's by the screwdriver.
It's a good place for it.
I knew what I was doing, see?
You're good like that.
Anyhow, so now I'm going to take my foot. So I always tell everybody, take your right hand and put your thumb over the hole in the foot, like that. Now, this goes on here like that. Okay, so now we have this on here. And we're going to stick your screw through the hole. And I'm going to tighten that up just finger tight. We don't want to tighten this all the way. We want to leave it kind of loose. All right. Kind of loose. So, you can see it's still loose on there. If you have a Bernina sewing machine, back into my bag of tricks, you will need a shank adapter that looks like the one Dusty has in his hand now, or, which is the most common, or if you have an older Bernina. I'm seeing if I have one in my bag here. I don't.
I got one.
Okay. Dusty's grabbing one. But there's two different adapters.
You have an extra foot right there?
I do.
Never mind, I got one of those too.
He's bringing his own darn foot.
So the adapters will either look like that, which is the older style. It does not want to focus on that at all. There it goes. Which has the two little ears.
So if you're pre-1994, Bernina.
Or it'll have this one that's straight across. And like I said, the camera really doesn't want to focus on it. But you can see the two side by side. And then your foot gets attached through that little screw, and then you have your adjustment in that screw with your Bernina shank adapter. Right, babe? Is
That's
that how
right.
it goes?
That's
Yeah,
it.
you know.
That's how it goes. And then the third and final is Same thing, you're going to have an adapter if you have a straight stitch only machine. You're gonna get,
And they'll be purple from us.
yeah, they'll be purple like this. That's not a beefed up one, but
Nope.
you'll get a beefed up adapter like that and they'll be purple. Same exact principle applies. You'll get an adapter like this. It'll have a screw and you'll get a little Allen wrench with it to work on those straight stitch only machines. So those are your scenarios. So now this foot has adjustment that's going to be up and down adjustment this way. And the reason I didn't tighten my foot is because when I get to this position and my foot is left loose like this, when I lower my foot to the down position, it automatically raises that foot to the top of the, once it's raised to the top of the fabric, and yeah, they do get a little vibration, you know, you're bouncing around in here all over the place. Now, if you have a machine that has the
Pivot height.
yeah, the pivot height, which is when you stop and your foot pedal or your presser foot automatically raises just a little bit. If you have a machine that does that automatically, you need to go into your settings and you need to shut your pivot height off or change it to 0. Okay? So any of the newer machines, most of them have that pivot height. You want to change those to 0. It's really important. The other thing that you can do also is depending on, yes, say that a few times fast. Foot height, because I'm lazy. If my fabric is thicker or my quilt is thicker, I will just adjust my presser foot pressure to adjust my foot up or down instead of unscrewing the screw in my to adjust the height and the screw height. I'll just adjust my presser foot pressure.
But pretty much all that depends on what kind of machine they have, how new it is.
Yep, all of that depends.
It is and so on and so
but
forth.
you can always, always, always check our list of check our tips and tricks paper, which everybody should.
Buffering missing parts.
Oh, it's buffering. That's probably due to your internet. Is everybody having trouble?
And it's being recorded, correct, to YouTube.
It is being recorded.
But our internet's good here. We're on full signal, so it's probably you.
Yes. So anyway, so we're going to go ahead. Next is that I'm going to talk about is we're going to talk about the templates themselves. I generally tell everybody to start out using the cloud template. Now, people don't normally listen to me, but this is the template I usually tell people to start with. And the reason I tell people to start with it is because it is very simple to use.
They come blue.
Correct.
They need to not be blue when you're ready to use them.
Correct. When you're ready to use your templates, generally they come with blue sheeting on them. Occasionally it's a brown paper, but usually blue. And you need to put something on your templates that are grippy. Okay? It doesn't have to be my particular brand of grip dots. It can be any brand. It can be sandpaper dots. It can be whatever you like. But you need something on there that's grippy. If
And
you
don't want to elevate the template either, so it
Right.
can't be real thick.
You don't want anything on there that's super thick. Now my grippies are real thin. They're silicone. After a while, if you've quilted a long enough time, I'm talking like a couple years worth of quilts, you will occasionally find a grippy dot that's kind of feels like it's got a coating on it, that it doesn't feel real grippy anymore, throw it in your dishwater, you know, with some Dawn dish soap. Give it a little swish around in there and then let it air dry. It'll be fine. You don't have to take them off and replace them. They're good forever. If you need grip dots and you don't have grip dots already, ours come 40 a pack for $5
million.
$5 million.
Yes.
So
I come with.
I'm going to, Dusty will show you the card, but it has our website and stuff on it. So if you need to order, we have them on there. But you don't need tons of them, but you're going to want more than what, you know, more than one on each corner. So this one I have 6 on here. This template is fairly easy to hold on to. And what you're going to do, so we're only talking about the cloud template because I don't want you to get anything else out until you can use this tool.
Leave the glue on everything but the cloud.
All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to make sure your grip dots are on the bottom of your template. And we're going to start in the upper right-hand corner, assuming you're right-handed. If you're not right-handed, start in your upper left-hand corner. All right, I've got a hold of my top thread.
Connie says the dots work great on the cutting templates too.
They do. They're not thick. That's the key. They're not too thick. Foot is going to go down in the groove. Now you can see that I can easily move my template around my foot. It's not a problem. I can slide my foot around inside that groove. All right. And I've got still a hold of my top thread. Now my top thread is blue. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to needle down, needle up. I'm pulling my bottom thread up. My bottom thread is black. And now that I have that up, I've got to take off my shoe. Lord knows you can't sew with your shoe on. And I'm going to just do 2 or 3 stitches here to lock that in. And I will trim my tails here. Let me find a pair of scissors.
We ain't been here in a while.
That's right. But I got a pair of scissors. All right, so there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and now all we're going to do is, and it's going to take you some getting used to, but try not to push too hard. When you push too hard, you make yourself more work. And what happens is you get flex. Now, you don't see tons of it in this particular template, but you can see a little bit. And on some of the other templates, there's a much, much more. But the harder you push, the more flex you get. And flex is bad. Flex will make your template, the part that is popping up, catch on the back side of your foot. And when that happens, you'll feel like you're stuck inside that groove. And when you feel like you're stuck, then you feel like you have to either push harder or push down more, which just makes it worse. And you get frustrated and, you end up giving up. So try to keep in mind that you want really light fingers, light hands, because you don't want to push hard. And it makes it harder on you. The harder you push and everything, the harder it makes things for you. So very, very light. And keep your speed about 3/4 of the way up. So if you have a speed control, which most of you do, set your speed control to 3/4 of the way up. So all you're going to do is stitch, and you're going to move fabric and template together all the way around inside that groove. When I get to the end of the path, we're going to stop, needle down. We're going to turn our template 180 degrees, and we're going to stitch it again. Now, if your shoulders are up around your ears,
show them. Up
like
around your
this.
ears.
You know, if you're like this and you're sewing like this,
And it hurts.
and it hurts, by the time you're finished with row 1, you're doing it wrong. Quilting shouldn't hurt you, okay? I know trying to quilt quilts has made a lot of us very, very sore in the past. You shouldn't have pain when you're quilting. It shouldn't hurt. So try to remember to keep your shoulders down and not to be stressed, and gentle hands. It's going to take some practice. Like I said, you're not going to be stress free the first time. Okay. But try to remember to keep your shoulders down and light hands, and it will make your life easier. So all we're doing is around, and I'm just pushing down. I'm not really pushing down, I'm just guiding all the way around. And when I get to the end, we're going to stop, needle down, and turn 180 and repeat. Same thing. So if you have any questions, just be sure to type, well, fiddlesticks. My thread broke.
Because you're a wild woman.
That is not why.
Because you were wild.
But this gives me a great opportunity to show you how to go back and pick up where we left off, because inevitably everybody breaks thread.
I don't. Ever.
Yeah, right.
I have a magic long arm.
Yeah, I've seen threads go flying across the room out there. I'm not sure that I've ever thrown a spool of thread.
I may have been the first one to throw one across the venue.
Okay, so what I did was just
Show them where you broke. There you go.
I cut it, or I trimmed the 3 stitches or so that were loose and kind of gnarly looking over there. And I do use a 9014 top stitch needle. That's the needle that I typically use. Several different companies make it, but top stitch, they just have a little bit longer eye. That's typically the needle that I use. Anyhow, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your template, you're going to go lay it right back on top where it was, and I'm going to go back about 3 stitches, and I'm going to hand turn and put my needle down right on the stitch line. And I will go ahead and pull my bobbin up to the top again. So I can get a hold of it there. And I'll tack in. I'm going to trim these now. I'm going to leave these about 1 inch long or so, because I'm going to go back and I'll pull them.
Susan Adler says I'm lying because I said bad words for a month quilting hers.
That's true. And then you're just going to be able to continue. So you're just going to pick it right up where I left off. And we're back at the end. Stop, needle down, and turn. Now, this is where I picked up. So you could pull these back to the back if you wanted to. I mean, this is...
You can bury them,
you can bury
cut them off, you can tie them off.
You can do whatever you want.
They aren't going nowhere.
They aren't. And
once it's washed, you really won't see anything.
So, but you can look there, and it's really not bad at all. So now, you could keep going. And I always tell everybody, when you do your clouds, fill 2 whole fat quarters with clouds. By the time you fill up 2 fat quarters with the cloud template, you should be feeling pretty confident in using the cloud template, and then you're ready to move on to the next tool. I want to show you quickly how to nest this tool so that you know when you're ready to do your 2 full fat quarters. it's just important to
Hold
learn.
it up and show them your 2 little stitches there that where you broke and put it back together. Because I couldn't get it on camera.
It's right here.
So if you can find that, then you know where it's at. I can see where it's at.
Okay, so
Row number 2.
yep, row number 2. So now you can always measure your repeats out, and you could draw lines across your fabric if you wanted to. I don't do that. I don't mark my quilts if I don't have to.
We are lazy quilters.
It's time consuming. If you mark it, you have to also get it back off. I just don't do that. So, but you can, and I have videos to explain how to do it and so on and so forth. What I do is I will take my template and I'll lay it on the design that I just finished so that it's all lined up. And then I will take the template and I will turn it so that I'm on the second row, second repeat, so to speak. And I will slide that down. And what I'm looking for is the outside edge here to line up with the stitch line to the row above it.
So basically the stitch line is right underneath the edge of that bump in the template, here and here.
Yep.
So that when the foot comes through, it'll be a basically 1/4 inch-ish away, give or take.
Correct. And I always say to start at the second repeat in, because at the first repeat you don't have 2 spots to line up. You don't have 2 spots. You only have 1.
And I hate when you have crooked clouds.
So when I do it this way, I can go ahead and I can put my foot down at the beginning, and then I can just turn my template backwards, and then I can line it up to the 1 here, lift my foot, move it over to the end, pull my threads up, and my template's in the right spot. I don't have to worry whether or not, I don't have to guess, because sometimes my guess is not very straight. So a couple stitches back and forth, and we'll go ahead and trim that. And again, we'll stitch the design all the way across. When you get to the end, stop, turn, and this will line right up again. Bump, bump, and we're going to stitch it again. And turn. And a little back stitch at the end. So there we go. And you would just repeat that same thing. So if I wanted to do this all over a quilt, I would just repeat, and I would do the whole quilt exactly like that. But you get a really nice even pattern. It looks good. It's very meander-ish, I guess, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's a little more regular than a meander. A little more...
Gives you more of that panto look that you
Yeah.
get from a long armor that's doing a very simple, easy, put it together, hold it together. Let's do feathers.
No, not yet.
Come on. We'll start at the top of the mountain.
That's breaking all the rules.
I know. We're rule breakers today.
No.
Because we were with the hippies.
No. If anybody has questions or anything, feel free to email. But give me a day or so.
Somebody just shot a note there, but it died. It was gone before I could see it.
Okay. When you're doing a whole quilt and moving from right to left, okay, great question.
And about the next one was about stitch length. And then I'll come back because that's going to take you a minute to talk about those two things.
Okay, great question, Annette. When I am doing a whole quilt, so anything bigger than a baby quilt is big to me. So now you know I live with Dusty, so obviously I have a long armor and listen, I can't long arm to save my life, so I don't use that thing. But I do have a long armor, but that doesn't mean necessarily that I get things long armed whenever I want. It took me 7 years to get a quilt quilted one time. So when I'm quilting something that's bigger than a crib quilt, I turn my sewing machine. All right. So I turn my sewing machine so that I am sitting, and I'm not going to do it because that'll screw up my whole thing, but we're going to pretend that I am this, and I don't know how much of this you can see, but I sit it down here at this end of my sewing machine. So as if I were looking at the end here. And I sit here with my quilt. And I lay my quilt out when I'm sandwiching. I lay my quilt top down, face down, and my batting down. And I cut my batting into thirds. So, and I use those darn big, fat, heavy batting scissors, you know. I don't know if you're familiar with batting scissors, but they're really big scissors, but they cut batting really nicely. And I cut my batting in a wavy line, okay? And I'll cut my batting into 3 pieces. So I have a middle section and I have 2 ends. So, and I'll use 505 spray base, and I'll spray base the center section of my batting to my quilt top, making sure, of course, there's no wrinkles. And then I will spray base again and put my quilt back attached to my batting there. And then, so now pretend that I have batting here and no batting here or here. So then I take my quilt top and I roll this up. Now I only have the quilt top and backing on each end, and I have the 3 layers in the middle. So this goes inside my machine like this, and I'm sitting down here at this end of my machine. I'm not here. Pretend I'm not here. And then I quilt starting here, and I'm using my templates, of course, and I'm stitching and flipping all the way across my quilt like this. Okay? When I get to the end, I stop, cut my threads, do my thing, and I go back over here and I do it again. All the way across. And again, until I finish that entire middle section. Okay? This way I'm never spinning my quilt, because if we do it like we normally do, and we layer everything all up together like we normally would, you end up with the same thing, because somebody somewhere 100 years ago didn't have spray based and all those wonderful things. And the quilt rack came down from the ceiling, and the supper time came, you cranked it up to the ceiling, and you know, that's what they did. And you started in the middle because, heavens to Betsy, you didn't want to get a crinkle in your fabric, you know, and that's why you did it. So we still, in our head, because somebody told us, and somebody told them a long time ago that you had to start in the middle because that's what you needed to do. Well, we have a lot of things now that they didn't have then. So really starting in the middle, and because when we start in the middle, that's when we end up with all this gunk everywhere. And we've fought and fought and fought for how long trying to quilt these big old quilts. And we're rolling it and smushing it and shoving it through this hole. And every time you get in a little bit further and you hit this, and you roll it and you scrunch it and it's hard and it hurts. Well, if you do it, like I said about making your batting in the 3 pieces, and with this rolled up, and if you're quilting across in rows like that, then you're never having to spin your quilt. Therefore, you've just saved yourself tons of work and lots of shoulder and neck pain and back pain because you're not spinning it constantly. Stitch length. Glad you asked that question. Now, mine aren't perfect, so I don't want you to think that my stitches are perfect length because they're not. If you looked at them closely, you would be able to see that they're not perfectly in length. So I do not have a stitch regulator. But the easiest thing that I can tell you to get the most consistent stitches the fastest and the easiest is riding a bike. We've all ridden a bike. When you ride a bicycle, if you pedal really slowly, you wibble wobble because keeping your balance is very hard. But when you pedal faster, it's much easier to keep your balance and you're much more smooth. You can keep your balance much smoother. Same thing with stitching. Okay? So when you're stitching and you're, trying to stay smooth and trying to be more consistent, it's easier if you have your speed set higher. That's why I said 3/4 of the way up. And I tell people, especially when you're new, take your foot pedal. Normally our foot pedal's like this, so the wedge is, and you're using it kind of like the gasoline in your car, and you kind of, you're going faster and slower like this. If you turn your pedal around like this, and your toes are down here on the skinny end, and your heel's up here on the high end, now you can only be on or off. Your heel doesn't go faster and slower like your toe does. So when you do this, you're on or you're off, then you have a much more consistent stitch length because you don't have to worry about your foot anymore because it's either on or it's off. Now you only have to worry about concentrating on the speed of your hands. So as soon as you don't have to think about your foot, your stitch length becomes much more consistent, much faster, if that makes any sense. But it does come with practice. The more you do it, the better you get, the more consistent you get. But those are my hints on trying to become more consistent faster. Because it is very annoying. You want your stitches, you know what they're supposed to look like. So, but faster is better. More stitches in an inch versus not enough stitches in an inch is better. Normally people go way too slow. And that's why you get those longer stitches is because you're going too slow. Yes, you'll be able to see this later. Yes, Linda, you'll be able to see it later. It will be online, so that won't be any trouble at all. Yes, I do start off the fabric on real quilts so it doesn't look like I start. Yes, absolutely. I start off the quilt and I finish off the quilt. That way I don't have to worry about covering up ends or anything either. So yeah, I normally start off the quilt and I finish off the quilt. There
you go, Max stitching.
Okay, yes. So I am. I think I've answered everybody so far.
What are you doing now?
I'm going on to the Stippler Meander.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, this template is the tool that everybody wants to do first because somebody in your life has told you that stippling or meandering is easy. Well, whoever that somebody is, you should go kick them in the leg because they're lying. If it was easy, we would all be able to do it, wouldn't we? But we can't. I still can't.
Baby, it looks good, just as good today.
It looks terrible.
As it
My
did
stipple
20 years ago.
still looks terrible. And I've been using templates for a long time.
It's pointy.
And I still have a pointy stipple. It doesn't matter how long I've done it. I cannot stipple
Without a template.
without pointies on it. So I've tried. So this is my problem child though. If of any templates that anybody's ever used of mine, this is the one that gets everybody in trouble. But everybody wants to do it. So I'm going to show you how. And like I said, don't get discouraged because of all of the tools that I have. This is the one that causes people the most grief. Plenty of grip dots on this guy. Okay. So don't think that you've got not enough, or you've got too many. If you've got 8 or 9 on here, it's good. That's good. All right. So again, doesn't matter which end you start at. There's no wrong. Just make sure your grip dots are on the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and put my foot down at the beginning and pull my bobbin.
Hold on, let me move the camera.
Up to the top.
Sorry, it's working on orders. There you go. They can see what you're doing now.
I'm glad they can because I can't.
Close both eyes.
That dark thread's just tough to see. I should have put white down there so I could see it better. All right, so I've got my bobbin thread up, and I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of stitches back and forth and trim my thread. I think you just knocked over a whole pile of things. All right, now, number one reason this is a problem template. When you start to use this tool, because of the way this is shaped, these peninsulas come out here, they immediately pop up. Doesn't matter if you push hard or not, they immediately pop up. So I always tell people you're going to have to put an index finger out here automatically, okay? Because they're going to pop up and cause you trouble. So we're going to go ahead and stitch out all the way around. And notice my fingers, I'm just moving them to come in behind. But if you don't move them, you're going to end up getting stuck because those pop up. Now I'm at the end, so I'm going to go ahead and twist my template 180 degrees. And again, I'm going to start with my index finger out here. And as I get closer to that, oh, fish sticks. Now my top thread didn't break. What is going on, kids? Am I out of bobbin? No, but it broke. Lord have mercy.
You're rough on the equipment.
I am.
Very rough on the equipment. Did you not fill your bobbin before you started?
It still has bobbin in it. It just broke.
Oh.
Just didn't like me, I guess. I'm going back. Going back to where I was.
didn't get the orders done, I was fired.
That's right. Don't forget it.
There you go. Back on track now.
There we go. Just like downtown. Stop at the end, turn your template 180, and again stitch. So you've got to be moving your fingers all the time so that you're keeping the peninsulas down so you don't run yourself over, yet you're not allowing those to pop up enough to get hung up on the back side of that foot and cause you grief. Now I'm at the end. I'm going to go ahead and do a little back stitch, and I'm going to show you how to, again, do the repeat for this particular tool. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. Now I could measure it all out, but it's just as easy to lay this on top, right where I was, and slide this down. And what I'm really looking for is I want this to be close enough so that the starts are going to be at the same place. Like you said, normally I'm starting off the edge of my quilt, especially for all over designs. Now, if I wanted something that was, that maybe I was going to do a stipple or clouds or something like that in the middle, but I wanted, you know, I was going to do something special in my sashings in an inner border, and then something different in my outside border, then I would perhaps start in, right in the ditch, along the, you know, the sashing or whatnot, just so, you know, it kind of, I was hiding that start point, if that makes sense. So I'm just checking here again that I have this lined up so that my start points are lined up with each other. Again, I'm checking here that the outside edge of my cutout is kind of lined up going up into this little space, that I'm not going to overlap my stitches anywhere. And then I'm going to go ahead and stitch the next row, and these will line up all the way across. Pull your bobbin thread up to the top. There we go. Stop at the end, and you're going to go ahead and just twist. You can check exactly where you are, where things are going to line up. Make sure you're not overlapping anywhere. And keep in mind that you have wiggle room. All right? You can wiggle this a little bit just to be able to be sure that you're not going to bump into anything you shouldn't. It's a meander. It's not the end of the world. You've got wiggle room.
One wash and perfect.
Oh, don't start. I don't know why it wants to be so grouchy.
Because you had it outside in the sawdust all weekend.
I did have it outside in the sawdust.
I wouldn't like you either. Not one bit.
Now, I finished that row. Now, what I want to show you is...
I got to spin it around so they can see. There you go.
Isn't that cool? So it looks great. like I said, you could do this all over a whole quilt. Looks really, really nice.
So you're an hour in right now.
Doesn't take really very long. But once you've filled your 2 fat quarters with your clouds, this, even though it's more pain in the butt, but you've got a handle on your clouds, this isn't going to be nearly as hard to get because you already understand how it works because you've done your clouds. Okay? So this you're going to pick up on fairly quickly, other than the pain in the butt of making sure you're moving your fingers so you don't feel like you're stuck all the time because of the pop-up. But this is not going to take you as long to register as the clouds because the clouds was your first thing, right? So by the fill a fat quarter with this, you're good. Okay? Not a problem. Now, the fun stuff. All right. Oh, where did my people go? Where did my people go? Oh, thanks, Jane. Okay. So, don't hesitate if you have questions. Just type them in there and I will answer as we go. So, now we have these 3 little guys. All in your beginner set. Oh, these are really old grippies. These were my very first grippies I had made. You can tell. So fat. All right, so your scapula swirl. No, wrong. Flourish. All right, you only need 3 or so grippies on the back of this. It's the only tool that I use that you stitch the outside of. And that's simply because stitching inside is easier than stitching outside. If this tool was huge, I don't know that I would stitch the outside of it all the time, but it's small enough and it's easy enough to hold on to that I don't have any trouble holding on to it. So, and I've never had a customer complain about holding on to it, so we just do it that way. It works. Right?
Sure.
It's my story.
You're a good storyteller.
I am. Today, anyway. It's my story. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull our bobbin to the top.
Because all that peace, love, and happiness with the hippies.
You went on many more adventures with hippies
I
than I
didn't
did.
do anything with the hippies.
I went to sleep.
I stayed in the metal tent.
The metal tent.
Mm-hmm. The metal tent. That's what we had there.
Oh, I went to bed in the sleeping tent. Okay, so this guy has all kinds of lines on them, and they're used for different things. And in other videos, we'll talk about the other lines and so on and so forth. But the basic things that we're going to use this for is making spines. Spines you need for in your borders and sashings and things like that so that you can make designs. You're going to make feathers from this spine. You're going to make leaves from this spine. You're going to use this tool to make leaves. You're going to use this tool to go from corner to corner in blocks. You're going to use it for all kinds of different things. You know, you use arcs all the time for different stuff. So it's really a pretty useful tool, even though it looks kind of boring. And when you look at it, you say, oh my goodness, what do I do with that? Besides make a wavy line. Okay, so I use this tool for all kinds of things. Dusty uses it for all kinds of different things.
I designed it.
You did. And he uses it for a spine too, but I mean, I think he uses it differently than I use it for some things.
I use mine for curved cross hatching.
I never use it for that.
I use mine for spines.
I do that.
I never use it for leaves.
He never
I
does
just
that.
don't need to.
I do. So I'm going to line this up right against the edge of my foot.
But you've got mad skills.
I do. We're gonna stitch right along the edge. When I get to the end, I'm gonna stop, needle down, and slide my tool, and stitch it again. And slide. So now if we were being really creative, we could come back on this same exact thing like this, and we can make a really cool border design with these little doodads, right? So you can see how this would go, right? You would end up with these, what would we call these shapes?
I don't know, you can show, you bring your purse. You can show them your purse.
Can you see that shape there?
Kelly did that for you with that ruler
In the big size.
in the big size.
Yeah, this is my purse.
So Kelly made that.
Was made
Kelly
with
Krepp
this
made
ruler.
that for my wife using that same ruler, just in the bigger size and well, and of course on a long arm, but you get the idea.
It's a really nice purse.
You'll ruin it.
You should.
Ooh, that was a mean look. You always pull the handles right off of it.
It's a really nice purse, and it's made well, not like a duty purse. Anyways, so I also use this spine and this tool to make leaves. So I used the other side with these other smaller bumps. And there's little hash marks on them. See those little hash marks? So when you're first starting and you need a more direction, like where do I go from? So I stitch.
Never hurts to have a few reference lines.
So I just stitch from dip to dip, I always say, and there's a little reference mark there in each of those dips. So I stitch from dip to dip, turn your tool to the opposite side, and stitch from dip to dip. Again, put a little vein in there using the back side of our tool. And then using a smaller portion of the same tool to do a smaller leaf. So those look really cute. Now for me, I cannot stitch on that line, at least not well. So I line my tool right back up. And then I can stitch fairly well along that same line. And on my tool, I have a registration mark that's right in the middle again. So now I know where I'm going to stop to add another set of leaves. So without having to think about it, I can just zip right along and make my leaves. And I don't have to make two if I don't want to. I can just make one. I can make a teeny weeny one. Super cute. Now, I could use this also to do like ribbons, or I could use it to do from corner to corner in blocks. So many different things. But I want to use that same spine because I want to show you how to use it to do your feathers off of. This tool, usually I have grippies on both sides. And I only have grippies a little bit on
Don't worry. I'll take care of that for you.
Dusty's going to give me some grippies.
They cost extra.
Oh, extra. Okay. He's going to give me some grippies.
Very hard on the equipment.
Huh. While you're doing that, I'm going to play around over here.
I'm coming right now. Here you go. They couldn't even see you playing.
It's okay.
Bryce is running to Meadville. He'll be back later.
Himself.
No,
Oh, I was gonna say.
he would never go to Meadville by himself. He's scared to drive. He's scared of cars. He's scared of town. He don't like people.
I know.
All those things.
Okay. Anyways, so here's my feather. And on your feather tool, there is a registration
Yep.
line
They can't see it in front of your bug.
that runs right across here. And there is another registration line right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to start on your spine. And I'm going to slide this in around my foot. So you can push this in and make your feathers shorter, or pull it out and make your feathers longer. So whatever space you need to fill, you're going to determine and slide this in or out. Keep in mind, if you are using this in an outer border, keep your feathers in 1/2 inch from the outside edge of your quilt, or you will cut them off with your binding. It's true. And you will be mad or sad or both. So once you've decided how long you want your feathers to be, you can go ahead and stitch, and you'll naturally hug the inside edge of that template. So people always ask, and there's a little more play, especially up here around where that curve is, because it's such a tight curve. You have some extra space there. So I always just tell people, you're going to have a little extra wiggle room, but just keep it so you're hugging that inside edge. So stitch out around the hook and come back, and you're going to stop at that registration line right there on top, and you're going to bump this over so your foot's back at the tip of the hook. And you're going to stitch back down to the spine. Make sure you stay hugging that inside edge of the template. Now, all I'm going to do is twist the template, and that registration mark right there at the tip of your hook. Now, if you don't have a registration mark there, grab yourself a Sharpie and put a line right there at the tip of that hook. If you don't have one, put one. Make one. Stitch out around the hook, back to the top where the registration line is, scooch your template over, and back down to the spine. Slide your template up, stitch out around the hook, back to the top, bump it over, and stitch back down to the spine. Scooch it up. Now, that was probably the shortest feather in the group. Usually, if your spine is going to dip in the middle of your dip will be the shortest of your feathers. And then they'll start to come out and kind of curl over the top. Out, around the hook, back to the top, bump it over. Now, I still say this saying all the time. It's just habit for me now.
Because you get lost.
Well, I do get lost sometimes.
I got lots of time to do this weekend.
And now I'm to the top of my spine. I've got my last little feather here. Okay, so I've now made it to the top of the spine. So you can see all the feathers on that one side. Now for myself, I'm not going to be able to follow this line. So I have two choices. I can either do a little back stitch, cut my thread and move back down to the bottom, or I can take my flourish template, I can line it up.
Hold on, let me get it back in the camera.
And I can travel back down to the bottom. And then start over doing the bottom. If you try to go downhill, you end up with not very nice feathers.
Very ugly feathers.
Very droopy, saggy, whatever you want to call them feathers. They're not good. Now, if you want to do something a little different, you can always try, when you're stitching the feathers, in your stitch out and you hug the inside. And when you get here, follow out the line of the feather that, the previous feather, and then come back on the outside. You'll get a really nice echo.
Do 2 or 3 of them in a row and then they'll be able to see them real
And
good on
twist and stitch out. And I just follow that echo back on the outside. It gets you just a really nice look. It's different. It's not the same old, same old. So you can see the doubled feather, which is kind of nice, different. Sometimes it's fun to do them like every other one or whatnot.
Hey, you got that one about look.
Yep. I can't just wait around for you all day.
Some of us have other things to do besides sleep. this turned out nice. See the ones with the echo?
There you go.
I'll hold it up.
Sure.
The next ones are my favorite. They're your favorite too.
They are.
Any
So-
questions while we have a minute? Stopped for a break.
Oh, hi, Pat. Okay, I gotta have a drink.
You're riding with me tonight?
No. My back just can't take it. I just found out that, I've been complaining about my back for, I don't know,
6 months.
at least.
Bad back.
I have 2 ruptured discs and a pinched nerve. So, yeah. So I'm probably looking at surgery.
I can take care of it in the Jeep.
We'll see, but bumping along is not very fun. So, anyways, this guy here is my favorite tool in the beginner set. It's so versatile. It does so much stuff. Hi, Becky. And it's just an all-around really nice tool. Tons of things to do with this. There's lots of videos for each of these tools, so not just what I'm showing you here today. And we have 2 new classes on what are USB sticks. I have a beginner basics class on the beginner set, and then I have a beginner kind of more advanced class, which goes into more advanced designs and stuff class as well.
Both on USB, right?
Both on USB, yeah.
And what are they, like 20, 25 bucks, something like that?
Yeah, $20. But we have those available now. People have asked forever, so we do have them available now. They're on the website. So, anyways, just so you know, this is Grippy Dots both sides is a must because we flip-flop this little guy all the time. And this little hook here, when your foot is in the down position, and you're gonna want to pull your thread up to the top. And do a couple stitches so that we have that locked down. I go ahead and trim my thread. So this little hook here will hook right in behind the foot. Kind of gives you an anchor. And what you're going to want to do is, again, you'll naturally sort of hug the inside of this pattern, right? So you're going to just kind of stitch out, and you'll stitch the inside edge of that. And at this point, you can either come right back out on the same stitch line, which is harder, especially when you're new. So I would suggest, if at all possible, leave your bottom where it is and scoot your top just a little, one direction or the other, which will kind of give you a bit of an echo. And when you get to this point here, when you're about to come out of this space, stop. Needle down, and you'll get to where I am right here. And you'll kind of have this little echo bit right here. So it just kind of, so you're not worrying about, you don't have to worry about whether you're staying right on the line. Okay. Turn this over, hook that hook back in behind the foot. And now you're going to stitch another one out around the hook. Again, we're at this position. You're going to scoot your top a little bit. All the way around. As you come out, we're going to stop here. Flip your template. Hook it in behind. And out. Slide your template just a little. Back out. Stop. Flip. Hook. And you're getting these really nice curlicues. They look great. And no worries about whether you're on that back track perfect or not, because every time you're just sliding your template a little bit, which gets you that really nice little opening, and no one has to worry then whether you're having that perfect back track or not. So that looks really great. No worries. Perfect every time. Now we could take that one step further, and instead of stopping at right where we are when we come out of that space, we could go ahead and track that back down a little further to about where the top of the curl before it is. And then drop this tool down and use this smaller part of the curl and do one. Come back out. When you get to the top, you're going to stop, bump that over, and you're doing 3 little feather plumes. Scooch. Now, flip, hook that back in behind, and now you can do your curl again. Now I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to do the 3 curls again because I forgot I need to do those 3 little feathers. 1, 2, and 1 more. Flip, hook that in behind. Slide that second little curl down. We're going to do 3 plumes.
The lady just had a question
1.
for you, and I didn't catch it all.
My scapular swirl template has a tiny notch about halfway down from the hook and where you go into the start of the swirl. Is that a stop point?
Or she's got a one that's got a defect in it.
My scapular swirl template has a tiny notch about halfway down from the hook. Jane, have you used your swirl before? I'm going to ask you that. If you haven't, I'm going to ask you to send me a photo of it. You may have a flaw in your scapula, and if that's the case, I'll mail you a new one. Okay, so if you haven't really used yours or anything and haven't hit it with your sewing machine, it may have a flaw in it that we didn't catch. I shouldn't say we, that Bryce didn't catch when he was packaging them or cutting them or whatnot. So if that's the case, I'll mail you a new one. Just send me a photo to our email. Thanks, Becky. Okay, so
Back to what you were doing.
I'm back to where I was. And now scooch. And you could make these go all the way around if you wanted to. You could do whatever.
It's all about sitting and playing.
It really is. But you can see how nice that looks. Dusty does these often, and he does them in a random style. And he calls it half feather vines. And I really love this look. It's not so
Formal.
exactly. It's not so formal. And I love this not so formal, done in the not so formal look. I like the feathers. I'm just not sold completely on this. It's got to be this way every time. The perfectness. So I really love this. Not so perfect. Great, Jane. Thank you. Yes, perfect. Just send us a photo and I make sure you put your address in there and I will mail you a new one.
So we've covered the templates. So do
yes.
we have any other plans for the next few weeks?
Other things that are going to be going on. I know that I do have a wallet class that I'm going to be doing. It's a simple card wallet because somebody in my life needs one. So you can look for that to be announced.
We'll probably do an expansion class.
Everything right now is like literally I'm doing everything Dusty and I are doing everything ourselves. So, you know, if email isn't quite as prompt as what it was, well, we're trying.
When you go to the Allegheny National Forest and don't have service for 6 days,
yeah,
it takes a minute.
So literally it's just Dusty and I, so bear with us, please, and thank you. We do love you all, and I will get there.
And we're about ready to start taking some quotes again too. So if they send us a little email or send me a photo to Messenger.
We're home for
permanent.
For an extended period of time because
other than we're doing fairs, we're going to do some local things.
We're doing some local stuff close to home because I don't know what's happening with my back
and our folks
and stuff for the moment, but Dusty's mom isn't well. My back is broken. So I'm not sure what else happening there. So so
we can start pulling back in some of the mystery quilts and getting them done up cheap and start getting some Christmas quilts done.
Yep. So
you guys start shooting us some notes and we'll start getting replies back to you. And
you have any class ideas, anything like that you're interested in?
You've got a cool new paper piecing thing coming. The quilt behind you, right?
I do. This quilt,
everybody's been asking
everybody
for years.
Has asked for years about a pattern for this quilt. Well, guess what?
It's coming.
It's coming.
Officially coming.
It's officially coming.
And the easiest way that we could find to do it, because we are lazy quilters.
Yep, it's coming. We're getting a pattern for this quilt. So I'm really excited about it. So I kind of was dreading it until we have met some lovely people who...
That's what they do.
Well, yeah, she does
She's a
the,
paper piecer, and it's all done on
She does-
stay-in foundation.
yeah, with the stay-in foundation. So I'm really, really excited about it.
The gnomes are
The
halfway done.
gnomes are
Over halfway
over
done.
halfway done. Yes, this pattern, Becky, this is garden orbs.
We're
I
hoping to have it available
I
by
designed
fall.
the pattern in what year?
It was an award winner in, I can tell you.
Anyways, and it will be a pattern before the end of this year. So,
And classes.
and I will be teaching it because
It was an award winner in 2010 and 2011. We really did that 10 years ago?
we really did.
Holy mackerel. We're getting old.
I just never did it as like wrote out the words and so on and so forth because, well, it's a lot. And we were busy. So we miss you guys too very much. So I'm ready to get busy on classes. So if you've got ideas, please drop me an email.
But try to remember that sometimes that it may just be her. Or her and Bryce.
So yeah, so it will be me or me and Bryce. Dusty may be doing some of these shows by himself, out at the fairs and things because, well,
I'm
it
going
is
to
what it
nothing but
is.
hippie conventions from now on.
And yeah, it is what it is. So Dave and G will be back on the 10th of August for I don't know how long, but we'll see. Anyways, so
I guess we're out of here for today.
anyways, I've missed you all and look forward to seeing y'all soon and watch for our class schedule because we're back. So
Bye guys.
talk to y'all soon.